All right, guys, good morning. We are going to be in Wednesday. We're going to be using our big book literature anthology. It's going to be your bigger book of the two ELA books that you guys have. We're going to be reading the stories I Fall Down. And then on your own, you guys are going to be reading Move It. And then we're going to be looking over your CRC workbook. And then we'll be looking over your turn practice workbook. And then at the end of class, you guys are going to work on your 5 things on your own. If you guys have questions on how to do your 5 things, you'll look at Monday's YouTube video. All right, so let me go ahead and first get to McGraw-Hill Education. The way you guys log in is by going to Google Classroom, clicking on the waffle, scrolling all the way down until you hit McGraw-Hill Education. Once you're here, you're going to click on Park.
Read.
Click on Read, and then you're looking for the story I Fall Down, which is right here.
Collections.
All right, let's go ahead and read.
Genre: expository text. I Fall Down by Vicky Cobb. Illustrated by Julia Gorton. Essential question: how do the Earth's forces affect us? Read about how gravity pushes and pulls. Know what happens when you trip? You fall down. Know what happens when you spill your milk? It drips down. Throw a ball up into the air. Watch what happens. It goes up for a short time, then falls down. Try tossing other things up in the air. Your mom's keys. A block. When something falls, which way does it fall? Does it ever fall up? Know what makes things fall? It's a force called gravity. As long as you are on Earth, you can't get away from it. Gravity is always pulling things. Know which way? Down, down, down. You can see how gravity pulls. Take a spoonful of molasses or honey and point the spoon down so that the goo dribbles back into the jar. Watch it drip. The goo stretches and gets longer and longer. It looks like a ribbon streaming into the jar. Gravity pulls the molasses from the spoon back into the jar.
If you don't know what molasses is, it's just think of something very gooey and sticky, like honey or syrup, like that you put on pancakes.
Do some things fall faster than others? Try it and see. Hold a penny and a key in one hand. Open your hand so they both start falling at the same time. Listen and watch as they hit the floor. Did either the penny or the key win the race, or was it a tie? Things fall so fast it's hard to tell if there is a winner or a loser.
So, like, for example, I have this marker, and then I have like another marker that's thinner. If I drop them at the same time, they both fall so fast that it sounds like they hit the floor at the same time. Now let's see if I can drop this marker and then this spray bottle. Same thing. Even though this is much heavier, they land around the same time.
Have lots of dropping races. But no matter whether the objects are big or small, it seems that it's always a tie. The only time you have a clear loser is when you drop something that the wind could easily blow away, such as a feather or a tissue. You see air fighting gravity only with very light objects.
So with very light objects like a feather or a tissue or even a piece of paper, it's going to fall slower. And the reason why is because the wind is pushing it so that it's not falling as fast. Think of like a parachute. If you guys have ever seen like in the movies, when people are falling and they put up that parachute, it's like this long, thin piece of like fabric that helps, and it kind of gathers up all that wind in it so that the person doesn't fall so fast to the ground. It slows them down. So again, let's try it. We have a paper and then a marker. So for that one, I don't know if you guys could really see, but I probably can't really see really well. But clearly the marker is actually falling faster than the paper. If we did it from a higher distance, you could definitely see it. So if you guys want to, you guys can practice that at home, just so you guys can understand how gravity works.
If there were no air, you would find that gravity pulls everything at the same speed. Astronauts proved this on the moon, where there is no air. Every dropping race was a tie. Amazing, but true.
Is your audio still not working, Alina?
Does everything land with the same force? Or do some things hit harder than others? Here's a way to find out. Have someone drop a dry sponge into your hand from about a foot above it. Next, try a small bar of soap. Which hits your hand harder, the sponge or the soap? Try dropping lots of things into your hand. Soon you will discover that some things hit harder than others. Now hold the bar of soap in one hand and the sponge in the other. Which is heavier, the sponge or the soap? Move your hands up and down to feel the difference. Your hands stop the sponge and the soap from falling to the ground. But you can still feel gravity's pull on the soap and sponge when you hold them in your hands. This pull is called weight. You can see if one object is heavier than another without letting either of them fall. Here's how. Get 2 rubber bands the same size. Tie one of your shoes to one rubber band. Tie one of your parents' shoes to the other rubber band. Lift both shoes by the rubber bands. Which rubber band stretches more? The heavier shoe stretches the rubber band more. Each rubber band acts like a scale to measure weight. Your weight is a measure of how hard you fall when you fall down. How much do you weigh? How much does your mother or father weigh? The more you weigh, the harder you fall. But you don't have to fall in order to weigh yourself. A scale tells you how hard you fall, without you falling at all. So simply get on a scale. Yay!
All right. So then here we have about the author and illustrator. And then if you guys would like, you guys are going to be reading the story Move It on your own. And it talks more about forces and speed, pushes and pulls. All right, guys. So the next thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at your CRC workbook pages. You guys are going to be on pages 67 to 73. So you have 2 options. You can either work on your CRC in your workbook that you guys have, or you can access your CRC online. There are 2 places that you can get your CRC. The first place is going to be here. Now, if you scroll down from this week's read, if you click on read, and if you scroll down this way, you're going to see your CRC pages for I Fall Down. So you can click on that and it'll take you directly to your CRC pages. Now, if you do it online, it's not going to save your work. I don't know why. It used to be able to do it, but for some reason, a lot of people aren't able to save their work anymore. So if you don't have your book, you guys can do it online However, it's not going to save your work. Now, that's okay because technically Wednesdays, it's not an activity that has to be completed because we'll talk about it in class. It's not highlighted pink. So you don't ever have to turn it into me. But if you want it for your own records, then it's not going to save it. So you might want to like take a picture of it, take a picture of it with a phone or an iPad or screenshot it on your computer because it won't save your work. And there's no PDF file of it. I'm not able to download this whole book, which is why I can't put it on Kami either. So this is one option. The next option you have to get to it, same thing, it is hard to save, is you're going to go to classwork. You're going to scroll down to ELA. And then you're going to click on the Closed Reading Companion CRC workbook, this one right here. If you open up this one, it's going to take you to the same thing. However, for this one, you have to actually go to the right page. If you go to it through Connect Ed, it'll take you to the right page directly. For this one, it's just going to take you to the beginning of the book, and then you'll just have to find the correct page, which is page 67. I recommend using your actual book. There it is. All right. All right, guys. What I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be looking over your answer book, your CRC answers PDF. That would be under resource links. It's the third one. It says CRC and your turn answers for ELA. Then I'm just going to scroll down to where we need to go. We're in Unit 3, Week 1. All right, ready? Okay, I fall down. How does the way the author organizes the text help you understand the information? Talk about it. Reread pages 214 to 215. How does the placement of the text help you understand the main idea? So let's go ahead and reread page 214 to 215.
Know what happens when you spill your milk? It drips down. Throw a ball up into the air. Watch what happens. It goes up for a short time, then falls down. Try tossing other things up in the air. Your mom's keys. A block. When something falls, which way does it fall? Does it ever fall up?
So use the information on pages 214 to 215 to help complete the chart. So let's look at the size of the text. Okay, so that's your text is like the words that are written there. Okay, so we're gonna look for the example and page number. So on page 215, the question at the bottom of the page is bigger. So let's look at that. So do you see how the text size is bigger compared to this one? This is much bigger. And I think it's bigger because it's asking you an important question. So how does it help the reader? It tells me that this question is important. Now let's look at the color of the text. There are different colors. So like here, the color is orange. And I feel like it's orange because it wants us to know it's important. And then look here, the color of the text on page 214 is white. And why do you guys think it's white? It drips down. What drips down? Oh, the milk. So I think that the text is white on page 214 because it draws my attention. So it makes me think of spilled milk. So it's something that the artist did to make the page more creative, more artistic. Where the text is placed. So you guys are going to notice that the text goes up and down across the page. Do you guys see how it goes? It's up here, then it's down here. It's up and down, up and down and down. My eyes go up and down like the objects the boy is throwing. So why the text is all over the place is it's trying to show us, like, if I had something like this marker and I'm throwing it up, first it comes up, then it comes down. Okay, so that's why it does that. Now, the text placement on these pages help me see that everything that comes up comes back down. My eyes follow the text up and down the page. So the author did some fun stuff to help us understand the way that gravity works. Okay, page number 68. How do the illustrations help you understand gravity? Talk about it. Study the illustrations on page 218 to 219 and describe what you see. Write what you learned from the illustrations of the different types of objects. Illustration: small falling objects, big falling objects affected by air. So let's go ahead and go back to 218 now and reread.
Do some things fall faster than others? Try it and see. Hold a penny and a key in one hand. Open your hand so they both start falling at the same time. Listen and watch as they hit the floor. Did either the penny or the key win the race, or was it a tie? Things fall so fast it's hard to tell if there is a winner or a loser. Have lots of dropping races. But no matter whether the objects are big or small, it seems that it's always a tie. The only time you have a clear loser is when you drop something that the wind could easily blow away, such as a feather or a tissue. You see air fighting gravity only with very light objects. If there were no air, you would find that gravity pulls everything at the same speed. Astronauts proved this on the moon, where there is no air. Every dropping race was a tie. Amazing, but true.
Oops, sorry. I don't know why I went to the next page. All right, let's keep going. So, small objects tie the big objects, but fall faster than those affected by air. What about the big falling objects? The big objects, same thing. We had the spray bottle and then the marker. Big objects tie the small objects, they fall at the same time, but the bigger, heavier objects, not necessarily a bigger, because technically you could get like a humongous piece of paper and that's gonna fall slower than than this water bottle. So heavier objects would be a better one. Have the bigger objects or the heavier objects fall faster than the objects that are affected by air, like tissue, paper. And then falling objects affected by air, the feather is dropping slower than the other items because of the air, because the air is blowing back up on it. So the dotted lines in the picture show that the objects are falling and hit the floor at the same time because gravity is pulling them down. All right, last one. How does the author use this text and illustration together? Talk about the different ways the text and illustrations work together on page 222 and 223. Explain the purpose of each text and illustration combination. So text on sponge and bar. Directions on each hand, arrows pushing text. So let's go ahead and read that. Actually, and let's go ahead and start from here.
Does everything land with the same force? Or do some things hit harder than others? Here's a way to find out. Have someone drop a dry sponge into your hand from about a foot above it. Next, try a small bar of soap. Which hits your hand harder, the sponge or the soap? Try dropping lots of things into your hand. Soon you will discover that some things hit harder than others. Now hold the bar of soap in one hand and the sponge in the other. Which is heavier, the sponge or the soap? Move your hands up and down to feel the difference. Your hands stop the sponge and the soap from falling to the ground. But you can still feel gravity's pull on the soap and sponge when you hold them in your hands. This pull is called weight.
So the text on the sponge and the bar. So let's look. Do you see how there's text that's actually on both the sponge and the bar? I know that the text is talking about what the text is talking about before even reading it. It's organized visually. So we know that the text that's on the soap is going to talk about the soap. We know that the text on the a sponge is going to be talking about the sponge. Directions on each hand. The text is telling me to do what the images are showing me to do. Hold an object in each hand. And then the arrows pushing the text, the arrows show the direction and seem to push the words that they're talking about. So it's like, look how it's pushing it up and that one's pushing it down. Do you guys notice how this text is like straight and then the up is a little bit higher and the down is a little bit lower? The author makes the text interact with the illustrations to show and tell me what is happening. All right, so the next one is going to be optional work that I would like you guys to do. It is called Move It. You'll read that story in your book and then you'll answer these questions. And then after that, we have the integrate, where you look at this photograph and you compare it to our story we read, I Fall Down. And you'll notice that there's this picture, and this is called the Leaning Tower of Pisa in Italy. When it was built, the tall, heavy limestone structure started to tilt to one side. The soft sole could not hold it up. Workers had to fix it or the building would have fallen down. So do you guys notice? Look, this picture is straight, but the tower itself is leaning. So the gravity kind of started to pull it down to the side. And so workers had to make sure that even though it is leaning, it's a very famous building, that it won't fall all the way down. All right, guys, what is next? The next thing that we have is your turn practice workbook. So please go ahead and take that out. Go ahead and take out your turn practice workbook. If you don't have your turn practice workbook, you are going to use your practice workbook in Google Classroom. So right here is your turn workbook pages. You're going to open that up in Kami. Everybody go ahead and do that. I'm going to give you guys. All right, guys. So we've got your turn practice workbook. We're on page 107 to 108. You should all be there now, okay? So page 107, how a yo-yo works. Let a yo-yo go and it spins down as the string unwinds. It keeps spinning at the end of the string. With a quick tug, the string rewinds and the yo-yo climbs back up. Gravity pulls a yo-yo down and a tug pulls it back up. So there's that string and it's connected to your finger. And then here's that yo-yo spinning down. And then you pull on that string, it comes back up. How do you know this is informational text? Okay, well, informational means it's giving us information that's true and factual. So I'm going to write that it gives me, how do you know this is informational text? It gives me true facts and information. It gives me true facts and information. And I'll write that in the chat. And you're going to notice that I'm not writing complete sentences. I am not writing complete sentences. So if you would like to write a complete sentence, you could say, I know this text is informational because it gives me true facts and information. Or you could say the genre of this text is informational because it gives me true facts and information. Okay. Number 2, why are the words unwinds and rewinds in bold print? The reason why they are in bold print is because they are important. They are important words that the author wants us to learn. Unwind and rewind. So why are they in bold print? Because the author wants us to know that they are important. And again, I am not writing complete sentences. So if you want to write a complete sentence, you are going to write the words unwinds and rewinds are in bold print because the author wants us to know that they are important words to remember or to learn. Number 3, what can you learn from the diagram? We can learn how a yo-yo works. From the diagram here, we see that the string pulls the yo-yo down and then a tug, and also gravity, and then the tug is going to pull it back up into your hand. So what can you learn from the diagram? How a yo-yo works. And you'll notice that it's very similar. That's the same as the title. If you want to write a complete sentence, you can say, I can learn from the diagram how a yo-yo works. All right, guys, if you are not done, the answers are in the chat. If you want to watch this on YouTube later, you can pause the video. I'm going to move on to the next page, which is page 108. A simile compares two unlike things. It uses the word like or as to make the comparison. Read the sentences, then answer the questions. Riding a roller coaster can feel like flying. So what two things does the author compare? Now, I'm going to circle and underline, and then I'll go ahead and write. So what are the two things the author is comparing? The first, the author is comparing a roller coaster or riding a roller coaster to flying. Very good, Ava. Flying and riding a roller coaster. Now, what does that simile mean? That when you ride a roller coaster, that, you know, what is flying like? Flying is like up in the air. It's soaring. It is, you feel wind in your hair and your face. And those are all things that riding a roller coaster are like. So how are they similar? They both are things that like make you feel like you're soaring. I know 9:35 is not any time. We get out of class at 9:55. So what are the two things? Riding a roller coaster and flying. And what does the simile mean? It feels like soaring or wind in your hair. So they're both similar. They both can be compared because flying and riding a roller coaster both feels like, you know, you're soaring through the sky. So number 1 is riding a roller coaster and flying. And then the simile means, and so the next part of 1 is soaring or wind in your hair. Yes, at 9:55. Okay, number 2, a motor moves this chain in a loop. It is like the moving belt at the store checkout. So what is being compared? The motor and the moving belt at the store checkout. Those are the two things that are being compared. A motor of the roller coaster and the moving belt at the store checkout. So I'm going to write that. So the motor and moving belt at store checkout. Write that down, guys. And then what does this simile mean? That both of the chains are moving in a loop. If you guys ever go to a store checkout, when you put your stuff on that moving belt, it takes your stuff slowly to where the cash register person is. And then if you can't see it, but what is going on is it's not just a continuous like line. It is it's actually going underneath and then it's coming back out. So it's a chain, or that belt is on a loop. So what does this simile mean? That they're both in a loop. Both move in a loop. And then we've got one more, guys. And then after that, you have what? 55 is when we're done. So 15 minutes to work on whatever you haven't finished, and also your 5 things. So the roller coaster sound is as loud as thunder. So what 2 things does the author compare? The roller coaster sound and thunder. So the sound of the roller coaster and thunder . Very good. And then what is the simile? How are they both similar? It says it in there. They are both loud. So for this last sentence or line, we're just going to write the word loud. Very good. They're both very loud. Like thunder is very loud. The roller coaster sound is very loud. All right, guys. So let me zoom out a little bit so you guys can see it all. If you guys have questions, you guys can stay. If not, you have 15 minutes. You are not going to log off and just close your computer. ELA time is not done. You need to for sure work on your 5 things. Everybody in the next 15 minutes needs to take a practice spelling test, a practice vocabulary test, do their grammar game and their mechanics game. And if you haven't done your selfie writing, you need to do that. After you have done those 5 things, then you need to go back and make sure that you finish your turn page and your CRC pages. And then maybe you read the second story in your literature anthology we didn't get to. All right. However, you guys can do those things asynchronously. So you guys are free to hang up and get your work done on your own. But this is not free time. This is not time to watch YouTube videos or to start PE. You're gonna start PE in 15 minutes. All right, guys. All right. I will see you guys at 10:15.